And we're going to jump right in. Usually we start these calls with a short grounding meditation. And that is what we are going to do right now, just a short meditation to kind of ground us. And then from there, we will get started with our Saturday session here. So, yeah, most of you are probably sitting or in a relaxing position. If you're not, you can also do this while you're walking or driving. Just keep your eyes open. If you're sitting, you can keep your eyes open as well, or you can close them if you want. Just relax your body as best you can. And when I say relax your body as best you can, I mean let your body physically relax, whether it's moving or sitting still, and just let it be here. Just relax it and kind of let that pressure just drop. That physical idea of trying hard or exerting, let that drop off your shoulders as best you can. And there still might be, uh, physical sensations of stress or tension. That's totally fine. Just do your best to relax into that, to relax your judgment, to drop the judgment, and just be soft, soft, soft in terms of your body. Breathe in, breathe out. This is a very non-special exercise. As I always like to say, this is not special. That's what's special about it. We are simply dropping judgment of the body, what the body does, what it does over the next 60 to 90 minutes. Don't worry about what the body does. Let it be, give it space. And furthermore, over the next 60 to 90 minutes, let's give our mind space as well. The thoughts can be there, the thoughts cannot be there. If our head is racing, if we have worried thoughts or self judgmental thoughts or angry thoughts or shameful thoughts or whatever, that's okay. They can come and they can go. What Marvin and I would like for the next, hour or so is for you not to judge these passing thoughts or feelings harshly, but to truly provide yourself the space just to be here and listen to what is being said or not said, and just to relax into that and be okay with that. I personally find when I put less pressure on myself, not only do I feel better, but often my life gets better. So, at least for the time that we're together today, I would encourage you to allow yourself to do that to the best of your abilities. And again, no pressure, just gentle, gentle, gentle. Very soft, very relaxed. Easy does it. You can notice if any particular part of your body is seemingly more stressed, like your chest area or your stomach area or between your forehead or your throat or wherever. If you can notice that if you want. And you can allow that to be there. And you can ask it if you want, is there anything I can do for you? What do you want me to do for you right now? And maybe if you ask it what it wants, it will tell you something. Or maybe it doesn't say anything, but regardless, wherever there's tension in the body, wherever whatever feelings you feel, you can let those feelings know it's okay right now. We're not going to judge them or shame them for the next hour. We're going to just be here with everything. This is an open, supportive space. And it's not an open, supportive space to try to get anything. It's an open, supportive space to be an open, supportive space. The thoughts can come, the thoughts can go, the feelings can come, the feelings can go. And we're here. And we're okay. And it's Marvin and my intention that everybody on this call live or people listening to the recording get whatever they need out of this in their own particular way. It might be something that you don't at all expect. And as I think I said in a recent video, what Marvin and I share a lot of time, it's not what you want to hear, it's what you need to hear. So it's our intention to provide you the space to take whatever you need to hear from today's call. And we're just flying into this wide open. There's really no itinerary today, in the best sense. So here we are. Thank you again for joining if you joined us live, a special Saturday call. And hello, Marvin.
What's up?
Not much, not much, in a good way. Is there anything you feel like sharing, Marvin, to start the call? It's very fine if there's not.
I would say I was probably going to do a video on this, but I guess just kind of maybe do it beforehand. But I want everybody in the chat to focus on um, starting to give yourself permission to want these things, to receive whatever it is that you want to manifest, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a job, whether it's a certain goal, whether it's healing, whatever that may be. Because oftentimes I've found and realized that too many people, in my opinion, through their minds, they don't give themselves permission to accept and receive what it is that they want. And I don't know if people are consciously aware of that or not, but I want you to start being aware, if you're not, to start being open to receive and give yourself permission to receive whatever it is, and to not talk yourself out of doing certain things, or to not talk yourself out of thinking a certain way, or whatever the case may be. So I would say that.
Thank you. Yeah, this is really, I think, a lot about giving yourself permission, like Marvin just said. And what we like to do here in these calls and in general, what both Marvin and I are big on is like providing you the space. There's a Zen saying, the best way to control a cow is to give them a big field. You give the cow a big field, big green field. And like, we want to give you a big field so you can go wherever you want to go. Use whatever tools you hear about that resonate with you, and not say, do it this way, do it that way. Um, if you grant yourself permission to use what makes sense to you, what comes before you in a natural way, I think that a lot of these manifesting ideas will work better for you. So that's not spoken about enough. Just the space to do that, space to be free to grace, chew the grass. Does anybody have any questions, or does anybody want to hop on? What often happens to these calls is that people are quiet at the beginning and then it starts to pick up, but it's a relatively small cast of characters today. So if people want to talk, they can talk right away or not. Marvin and I will also just vibe with you guys for a while. All quiet on the Western Front. It's so funny. We've been talking about for a long time having a weekend one of these calls because we usually have them during the weekday. But you never know what that means. Yes, Sarah, by all means, feel free to type something in or to hop on with us.
Hi, can you
Hi.
hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'd like to kind of bring up this whole thing with detachment and attachment, because I notice that from my own experience, which I have to say I'm lucky that I've been able to witness things from my own experience, because I had these coincidences sometimes. And then later I look at it and I think, well, it also could be a manifestation. But these are things that are, they're not the SP, they're smaller things. They're great little surprises. And very insightful in terms of, real manifestation. But I'm having trouble, connecting that with the SP, whether it's a friend or, a romantic situation. Tim and I did speak about a week ago regarding my situation, but I would like to speak more in general terms for the group, because the struggle that I have with it, I think is really, in terms of the spiritual manifestation perspective, is more of a generic thing, right? Of course, I have my own personal link to this person, and there's that in and of itself. But going into the law of attraction and watching all these different videos with different coaches, I first got into it after a breakup with my ex-fiance about 4 years ago. That's what got me into it. But I have had other coincidences and other types of experiences even before I started, going onto YouTube and watching all these videos. So it's definitely like, another step in the process. But I was just wondering kind of what you both thought about that, because it's a struggle to, with friends, it's a little bit easier than romantic relationship, because there's not as much attachment. So if I don't hear from a friend for a while, it's not like I feel as bad, or I have a little bit more trust. But there, a lot of people don't want to lose their SPs to, a third party. They don't want to see them get married. They want to try to work on that relationship. So it's just been this, struggle with, action versus non-action, and detachment versus attachment, and how far I can go with that without being, like we talked about before, over texting, or expecting too much from someone who has their own free will. And so I was just kind of wondering what you both thought about that.
Sure. Yeah. I'll start just because we did speak, recently. Maybe probably just a little bit more context. I think the idea of attachment versus non-detachment for relationships, there's a big difference whether it's romantic or not. But as you said, particularly for romantic relationships, there's a big difference between not talking to somebody, but energetically be thinking about them in a needful way frequently, like all the time. Let's be honest, like frequently, like, thinking about them a lot during the day, most days. There's a
Yeah.
big difference between that and having someone that you care for, you don't know if it's going to work out or not. And when you think of them, just having a lot of appreciation and love, and not that needy energy as much as that grateful energy. So, in my opinion, the latter, that more grateful, appreciative energy, whether you end up with the person or not, is more of a detached energy. It's more of an energy that's conducive to uh, positive manifestations, whether it's with that person or with another partner, as opposed to that needful energy. Because one thing that you notice with a lot of SP stuff is there's this real friction where so much of the advice on YouTube is saying, no contact, no contact, don't do anything, make them come to you or what have you. But that's very difficult for most people to do because they inadvertently stay in that needy energy, even though they're not talking, they're not in contact with the person. They're not in like that grateful energy where it's like, I really love and appreciate that person. And whether I'm with them or not, I would love to be with them. But whether I'm with them or not, I'm sending them love and I'm sending love to everybody. If you're able to be in no contact but have that kind of positive energy, in my opinion, you're much more likely to actually get contact. What Marvin and I usually recommend people do, though, because that's very difficult for most of us, is to pull off the band-aid, so to speak, and take real inspired action, meaning reach out to the person you have not been in physical contact with, um, and start to get that ball rolling. So that needy energy transmutes into something more neutral. Um, and you kind of find out where you are with the person, if that's where you're at. Um, but yeah, I would love to hear Marvin's take on that as well. And we're glad you're here as well, Laszlo. Thanks for chatting.
Thanks, thanks.
Thanks, Eric.
Well, I would say that I think detachment detachment is a natural part of the process. And I think kind of like how I said to start, to give yourself permission, right? Give yourself permission to be attached, maybe in the beginning. Give yourself permission to be detached. It comes down to being a judgment-free zone, in my opinion. And I think what it really is for most people is so many of us, we just become inundated with, kind of like you said in the beginning of your statement, you were talking about coaches, different videos. And so you kind of inevitably fall into this trap of what to do, what not to do. And I get it, but I also don't think that you're necessarily should judge yourself based on, I don't know, whichever way you decide to go. And so, like I said, give yourself permission to be attached. It's okay, particularly in the beginning, to process that and to feel that. And what I would say is I would say just become more consciously aware of where you're at on your journey. Because what a lot of people do is, I've noticed a lot of people, they're not aware. I always preach awareness to people that I talk to. Awareness, awareness. Become aware of where you are currently at presently with your emotions, with your thoughts, with everything, compared to how you were 6 months ago, compared to how you want to be, right? And I think that is a, I think that awareness is a powerful exercise because a lot of people just go through the motions and, we think things are coincidences. We think, oh, this is just that or that's just that. And it isn't until we really focus on why we're feeling this way that we actually start to get answers and actually start to solve problems that could have been lifelong problems. Is because we move through life without awareness and we just try to bury whatever pain or disappointment or whatever the case may be that we were going through. So I think it's natural. I think it's a part of duality. I think that will always exist. I think like Joseph Murphy and everybody talks about Coué, the law of reverse effort, it will always exist. It's real. You do more, but then you see the exact opposite of what you want to see, especially in the beginning and that type of thing. And oftentimes that leads people to think, oh, I'm doing it wrong. But to me, it's not necessarily a matter of doing it wrong. Because it's individualized to each situation, but it could also be like Florence Scovel Shinn said. Florence Scovel Shinn in her book, she mentions a great purging. She mentions that it'll be darkest. Why is it one of her students came to her and asked her, why do all these bad things keep happening to me? And Florence Scovel Shinn mentioned how it's always typically darkest before dawn, right before you get your breakthrough, all of this bad stuff happens. And it's essentially this great purging that's taking place. And I think that's true for a lot of people, not everybody, because it depends on your state, in my opinion, depends on where you're at, how you think about things, your past and all of that. But I think if you can look at it through the lens of, you know, being attached is okay. Being attached is healthy, in my opinion. There you can have a healthy level of attachment, you can have an unhealthy level of attachment. And so I think kind of like Tim was saying, you need to ask yourself, are you obsessively thinking about whatever it is that you want, in a bad way, in a way that's trying to get, in a way that people can feel that energy coming off of you, or is it pure? And a lot of times in the beginning, it's not pure. It's not coming from love. It's coming from neediness. And so you can be aware of that and start to correct that. I think everybody will be in good shape.
I could just piggyback on that, and then Sarah, you're welcome to say more or ask another follow-up question about it. Something that Mark and I have been speaking to several people about is the time thing. So many of these videos make it seem like this is going to happen very quickly, right? And we're always talking about how it's probably not going to happen really quickly. It can, but it probably will not. So it can be very beneficial through awareness and perhaps through actually journaling or writing something down to even record it, to see how your reaction towards your relationship is after 1 month or after 3 months, right? Like, we can notice progression sometimes more easily if we judge it by months or maybe even quarters, right? So, like, how differently do I feel after 3 months than I felt initially? Because as Marvin said, most of the time, like when we get out of a relationship or if it ends badly and we want to reconnect, the first couple months are going to be very hard emotionally to detach. Generally speaking, for a lot of us, some people know, but a lot of time it's difficult. And so one thing we can do is be like, all right, well, it's now been a couple months. Do I feel more detached, more neutral than I did the first month after this happened, or the first few months? Do I feel differently 6 months after as opposed to 3 months after? That's a good thing to kind of gauge, because we try to push it and like, I'm getting better every day and I have to be better today than I was yesterday and da da da. That can be too much pressure. And again, we can give ourselves more space and be more gentle with ourselves um, in terms of detachment. Detaching from a relationship that's substantial, just to be frank, uh, can take months, if not years. And I know that's not what a lot of people want to hear, especially in the SP community. But again, we're here to tell you uh, not what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. And again, this is not a blanket statement; doesn't go for everybody. But this idea that like you cared for someone and the relationship ended and you didn't want it to end, and you're just going to jump right back on your feet and like be like da, 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 da. It can happen, but the large majority of people, it's not going to. There's going to be at least a few months of processing in all likelihood, and what that processing is going to look like is going to depend on who you are and your relationship history. But I don't know, that just seems like common sense.
Could I say something?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna like try to say a few things, but keep it short. So what I've noticed is that at the beginning of a separation and him ghosting, whatever, since he tends to do this a lot, it was more like I'm seeing him through the rosy glasses and I just want to talk to him and make it better. And then over time, I realized, okay, wait, there are some things he did that weren't right. And I can't, take responsibility for everything. And, he has his end of things too. But because of the rejection and because of all the things that I've noticed where the problems are, it would be really easy for me, like if we were to talk again, to go right into a lot of that and be like, well, you know, A, B, C, D, like these are things that were wrong, and what are we doing, you know? And I thought about, like, I had talked to another coach about, she mentioned something about a list, making a list of things that I would want to talk about. And I have already started to do that because, you know, I realized that if I were to really be in a conversation with him, there would be certain things I'd want to tell him, either just in terms of my own feelings and how much I care about him or that I like him, but also certain things that, you know, are related to my boundaries or my values and priorities, that where, you know, even though those things are important to me, I would see that finding some common ground with him would be beneficial to both of us. And then trying to explain that. But the other day, Marvin had a video, and he talked a lot about forgiveness and trying to, you know, see that other person like a child. And I responded, I'm under Violets. That's my name. I use a different name on YouTube because I want to keep my privacy. So I respond to him, and I talked about how, you know, that's a big challenge because you might really care about someone, and you might have evolved to a place where you still value and accept them, even though they've hurt you. But in reality, it's easier said than done. When you're talking to them, you still feel the wounds and the rejection and the pain, and you want to defend yourself and defend your points. And so now I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, I gotta really think about, you know, it's one thing for me to leave a voicemail and say, hey, I would like to talk again, but it's another thing when you talk to that person in real life. You can't just say, well, it's 3D circumstances and I'm just gonna, like, you know, battle it out. You wanna be able to, like, you know, have a nice conversation and try to have some kind of understanding. And it's a struggle because I have a sister who is a manic depressive. She recently went through an episode, and I had to get her into the hospital, and it is really difficult. I'm not just dealing with him, you know, like I have real challenges with her too. It's very painful because she'll come out of the hospital and she'll be doing fine again, but she doesn't want to talk to me, and it's nothing to do with, you know, I didn't really do anything to her, but she has some kind of underlying whatever. And it's very hard. I mean, I used to get triggered in the past with her because she would be very adversarial or very, you know, and over time I've been able to kind of like, you know, hold my words. But in the past, you know, I was definitely with the old fiance more reactive, and it's just been such a process. You know, I've been through therapy, and I've, you know, tried to be assertive, and choosing your words properly is a big part of it, whether, you know, you're manifesting or not, and trying to, you know, relate to someone even though you're in that pain. It's definitely a challenge. So anyway, that's, you know, I mean, I'm just saying that with a family member especially, you know, even if you don't see them all the time, you're really kind of connected to them for the rest of your life. And that's a lot of people have to deal with these things, whether it's family, friends, a relationship. And, you know, sometimes these romantic relationships, they end quickly. Or, you know, a lot of these romantic relationships end because people are more ready to discard a romantic relationship because they'll just say, well, I'll just go back online and I'll find someone else, you know. But when it comes to friends and family, it's not as easy to do that. So, you know, so you know, all these situations are different, but it takes a lot of balancing of, you know, trying to see this person in a new light. You know, I've definitely have tried to be positive as much as I could, but you also don't want to put yourself in a position where that other person feels free to attack you or free to just kind of, you know,
Right.
do whatever. You gotta find that balance of being accepting and wanting to keep a relationship, but also not get taken advantage of.
Sure. And personally, I see this is the type of stuff, this is why group coaching or talking with someone, people like Tim or myself, because this type of stuff, this stuff is so detailed, it's so minute, and so many other people would just say, "Oh yeah, just living it in," but those answers to me don't work. And this is what Tim and I believe, pride ourselves on, is helping you navigate the middle, right? And dealing with these types of issues. And for me personally, and Tim, I'm sure you'll elaborate afterwards. Personally, I got there's a lot of we're all conditioned, right? All of us are conditioned to some extent from the time we're children up until however old you are on your journey called life. And there's a lot of unprogramming that I had to do in my life. And one of those things that I had to unprogram myself with is exactly what you're talking about right now, Sarah. And that is accepting family for who they are and looking at them for exactly who they are, not trying to see them as being different in your mind, not trying to see them as, oh, no, getting bluntly honest about who they are as a person and how you're going to deal with them. And people always say, "Oh, family." You made a statement earlier. You said it's not as easy with family and with family members or friends or something like that. I totally disagree with that. I think it is as easy as uh, dealing with a person, a specific person, or whoever. I think it's the same dealing with a family member as well. The only reason it's different is because you're telling yourself it's different. People say, "Oh, but that's my mother. Oh, but that's my father. Oh, but that's my sister. That's my brother." I've had issues like that with family members. And guess what? Arm's length. I put them at arm's length because I didn't try to see I stopped trying to see the good and stop saying, "Oh, well, that's my brother or that's whoever." No, I'm putting you exactly in that box that you belong. I'm not going to try to squeeze a round hole in a square peg. I'm not going to do that. And it really is. Tim likes to say a lot of times, a lot of these solutions are common sense solutions, and to me, he's 100% right, because that's what you have to do. And it might be painful, but it's only painful because we're telling ourselves, "Damn, that's my sister. I love her. We're blood." People always say, "Oh, you should never cut your family off. Oh, you should never." I totally disagree with that. I totally disagree with that. I don't care if it's family. I don't care if it's when people show you who they are, believe them. And this is the type of stuff that, coaches online or whatever will not tell you. Now, I'm not telling you to be um, a bad person or a negative person, but emotionally, you have to learn how to check out and say, "All right, you know what? I'm not dealing with this no more. I understand you're my sister, but I have to take care of myself, because if I don't take care of myself, I can't show up for you. I can't show up for my fiance or a new person that I get, or I can't show up for anybody else until I fill up my own cup." And so, people might have a hard time and think, "Oh, that's selfish." But to me, no, I don't think it's selfish. I can't take care of, Tim and I are in the positions right now where we're getting ready to take care of our whole family, or everybody, whoever it is, you can name them, cousins, uncles, whatever, blah, 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 and we can't do that until we take care of ourselves. We have to keep our own cups filled. We have to put money in our own bank accounts first. We have to do all of that. So that way, okay, yeah, now my wife can benefit. Now my kids can benefit. Now my parents and your parents can benefit. Now all the cousins can benefit. Now, after they all benefit, now I can start taking care of the world and solving world problems. But it all starts with me taking care of myself. And see, this is the type of 3D advice that you're not going to get, in my opinion, honestly, from talking to most people. So, Tim, you can go ahead and hop on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think just a lot of the SP advice and just the general law of assumption advice, it's a lot of spiritual bypassing, basically. Um, this like what I hear most Neville, quote unquote, Neville coaches or whatever, Neville infused, inspired people on YouTube say is often like the opposite of what I take from Neville. Like for me, this is everybody as you pushed out in like a in like a way that's very interesting
Right.
in the sense like Neville's got that great lecture, Changing the Feeling of I, where he talks about when you really look at yourself and you realize in so many aspects how like miserable you are, like how wretched a creature, and like how like even if you were whatever, like this blood, it would take you a long time to even forgive yourself before you accept that, oh wow, this is me and I have to change myself. And that inner work to change oneself, that's why I got into these ideas. And honestly, for me, one of the most gratifying parts of finding a lot of these, Neville's advice, a lot of these law of attraction ideas, has been how I've dealt with relationships. Um, and I always dealt with relationships pretty well, but I honestly feel like I deal with them more effectively now than I ever have before. And I do that not by trying to revise people and change them, but by looking at myself honestly and seeing how many issues I often have and trying to clean those up. Because I can't clean up other people's stuff if I'm not clean myself usually. You understand? It's very difficult when you see an SP or a family member uh, behaving in a way that you don't want. But whether you like it or not, chances are they are going to behave that way if they've shown their colors over and over and over again. I'm not the kind of person who's like, all right, I'm going to revise that and change their actions and change their behavior. I do not think we can do that sustainably for most people at all. And I think trying to do that is a form of manipulation and a form of self-deception, a form of bypassing, basically, that's incredibly popular in the community. Uh, when it comes to relationships, SP stuff, all, Marvin and I see all the time. Very often, the problem is you're doing the work. The person into these ideas is quote unquote spiritual, trying very hard to improve themselves, and they're giving the other person, their SP, the break that the SP doesn't deserve. The SP is acting like shit. They have to grow up. They have to be more mature if they want to be in a relationship. And they are giving zero indication or very little indication they're willing to do that. It's like the alcoholic who says, like, oh, I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to stop drinking. And they keep on drinking. Oh, I'm going to stop drinking. And they keep on drinking. There's only so many times that you can cry wolf before people are going to stop showing up. Like you are perpetuating it by allowing it to stay the way it is. And family relationships are exactly the same way. Now,
Exactly.
I say all this, and I say how it's one of the things I've taken from these ideas the most, in the sense that I've improved a lot of my family relationships, and frankly, like my family life in general. I don't think I'd be able to do it today without these ideas. Having two young kids, both my wife and I have, we're both self-employed, and like I'm juggling a bunch of stuff all the time. I don't think I would have manifested that without knowing about these principles. But it meant I had to draw, have form boundaries for myself and be very clear about what my priorities were. Because Marvin made a video the other day in our group call the other day, we were talking about, it's like you can either be right or you can have peace. And if you get into these ideas, if you want to implement these ideas more effectively in your life, you have to swallow your pride and not care about being right and choose peace instead. And that's going to mean making hard decisions and having uncomfortable conversations sometimes, and standing your ground in a peaceful place and being like, you know what, I love you and I can't help you, or I love you and I can't be with you right now. I love you and I can no longer go on with us treating each other this way. And just because I love you doesn't mean that I can keep on allowing this to happen in the way it has. And with SP stuff, with romantic relationships, people don't do that. And there's this toxicity that we allow by not basically standing up to our SP who has not matured or grown, and just allowing them to walk all over us. I see that
And
all the time.
yeah, And ironically, Tim, real quick, doing what you just said to do by setting those boundaries and not letting our SP walk all over us, if you want to use LOA terms, that's you being the new man and not the old man, like Neville says. That's you
Yes.
acting as your new future self would act, because your new future self would not put up with the disrespect, would not put up with all of the BS that you're going through right now with a family member or SP or whoever. So when you do understand, when you do set those boundaries in the 3D, you are uh it's imminent. Like you are becoming the new version of yourself when you do that. And so ironically, it's weird because people tell you don't do that, but at the same time, when you do set boundaries and you do that, you're behaving and acting as you would 5, 10 years from now when you are the person who you want to be. So that's something to keep in mind as well. You are the new person. You are shifting. If you want to say timelines or whatever, you want to use that language, you're becoming, you're going down that path. You're at the fork in the road. You're like, do I go left? Do I go right? Sarah 5 years ago would continue to go left, but now I'm at the fork in the road, and now Sarah has the knowledge and she has the decision making and the ability to say, you know what, I've gone left for the past 5, 10 years. I'm not going to go left anymore. I have to set boundaries because the new Sarah would 1000% set boundaries. And so now I'm acting and thinking as the new Sarah that has everything she ever wanted. And, and she would not put up with this. So now I'm setting these boundaries. And ironically, like Tim said, I guarantee in a weird way, most likely your relationship with your sister or whoever else is probably going to get better in an unexplainable, weird way. They're going to be like, oh shit, I can't get over on her with this no more. Oh shit, I can't do that no more. It's like people see you're serious when you put your foot down. And that's, what it takes sometimes. So sorry, Tim.
No. Yeah, Sarah, just any thoughts on that? Without
Yes. Yes, I have seen that happen with my sister over the past few years because I have put my foot down a little bit and either exiting conversations where I think that they'll get, too combative, or because, there is an aggressive aspect of her condition. And, if she tries to start an argument or something, I back out now a little bit more. But, it's a definitely a challenge. But yeah, I have seen that she's improved around me. And that goes back to, that everyone has to really decide that manifestation is, comes from yourself first. Um, and that if you want to see changes in life, it comes from you first. And I mean, my uncle told me that a long time ago when we were talking about boyfriends and stuff, you can only change yourself. And I agree with that. The SP community, I mean, the manifestation community, and talk about SP with a lot of the videos that I've seen, a lot of coaches will talk about seeing the new version of the SP, or changing the situation in your mind ahead of time. Now, I understand that as a technique in order to have compassion and to keep things peaceful. I think that in a way that can be good. On the other hand, though, like you said, it can be very delusional, and you don't want to get caught, in a situation where you're assuming that this person is working on themselves and they're everything is fine when it really isn't. So that's where I think it can definitely be dangerous with a lot of different viewers. And I definitely put a lot of thought into a lot of these different things, but it's being that I've had these other coincidences and manifestations, I'm still trying to like bridge that. Like, well, how is it so easy that I can think of something and then it kind of manifests later in the day or the next day, with these other things. But not as much as the SP. But I think back to your point about, when you set those boundaries. I mean, I had a real therapist that I would talk to, and he really put a lot of time and effort into the boundary setting with me, because dealing with, the various boyfriends, I mean, he saw through 2 major relationships of mine. He heard everything basically. And one guy was basically an alcoholic and I had to let him go. we're friends now. I'm friends with him now, but I had to let him go romantically. And then the second guy was, you know, he was an only child, very narcissistic, but I didn't find that out until later. It was this whole process of Mr. Nice Guy turning into someone, you know, someone else. And the boundary setting became this big thing. And I think that with the SPs and the manifestation community, setting these, you know, boundaries and not becoming too delusional is really, I mean, from my own experience, it's really important. So anyway,
Agreed. No, thank you. That's a great point. And it's yeah, it's very important because I completely agree with you that you know, Marv and I are not saying like don't like revise or look at the person in the best light.
Right.
We're just saying that a lot of the time those techniques long term are not sustainable. They are delusional. I agree with you, Sarah, there. So I think that's again, this is all very gray, it's all very nuanced, it's murky, right? We're in the weeds where we like to be, where it's not clear and everyone's situation is different. But just to say, oh, this person's going to get better, da 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 da. I don't. You usually don't see it. It doesn't work that way. So, Laszlo, I know that you had a question. So I wanted to make sure we got to you. If you want to, you know, come on audio, video, or just type it in, whatever works for you. Thank you, Sarah, for all those great insights in your question. Uh, 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 Hold on one second. Yep.
May I come in?
Yep. Yeah. Please. Yeah. Feel free to
All
talk.
right. All right. This is a question that I have regarding something that is bothering me a lot considerably these last days, which is I wonder something if do you know what first of all, do you know what revision is, which is something done by Neville Goddard, you know, a technique that can help you like in some way change your past, change those bad events or bad decisions or anything that happened in your past in the way you would like them you would have loved them to be?
That's your question?
Yeah, but my question is that can revision actually help you? For example, my thing is that fixing my high school life, like fixing my college or university life, for example, like being able to finish like high school the way I wanted it to be, like the way I should have done it, or and also having my an ideal career at the university. Is it really possible to do that? Like for example, like many times during the social media, I see people graduating from college or university, like wearing those coats, those hats, their titles and everything, something that I wasn't able to do. Luckily, I'm on a good job right now where I'm earning pretty well, but I just wonder if maybe I could, by using revision, get fixing that part of my life and even get all that knowledge from it, like being able having to be able to solve like fifth level equations and everything like the hardest and biggest things regarding that is that's what I wonder if revision can help me do that.
Are you out of high school and college right now?
Yes, I'm working right now. I finished both university of our college and high school right now. I'm working right now.
So you graduated, correct?
Well, I kind of graduated. Like it was a different type of thing. Like it was a special school or something like that, but not graduation the way I wanted it to be.
So
But I think, well, so sorry.
so you're are you so my thing, I guess my question would be to you, Tim, you can chime in, is what exactly do you want to revise about high school or college if you've already finished it? Or like
Like,
what's the purpose? What's the point?
like for example, I didn't actually graduate from college. Like I was on an institute where I gained some certificates and titles, but not a graduation like that because I tried a software engineering career on an institute, but I failed and I was forced to quit. And I did some courses of the thing that I'm working right now, and that's it. Like sometimes I would like to imagine myself like being able to study my desired career at the university that I had that during that time I was not aware of what I was really good at. So I studied the wrong career that I wasn't good at. And when I realized about what I was good at, it was too late for me to try again.
Sure. I can tell you, Martin, feel free to chime in or cut me off, frankly, if you want, no problem. There's a lot of different takes on revision. There, you will see people on message boards, and there's even teachers like Candace Tusharone, formerly Candace Toth, that will literally say that you can revise your past. If you go on the Reddit Neville subreddit, you literally will see people like in your situation be like, I revised, not graduating from college, and now I'm graduated. And I'm not saying that's impossible. I don't know. I find most of those stories very hard to believe. They might happen. I don't know. That's not generally how Marvin and I look at revision. Like we look at it as more of an emotional healing type of technique or modality, where it's like if you can revise how you feel about your schooling and how you left schooling, you will have a whole new level of confidence and competency by revising your emotional past. And Marvin, if you want to expand upon that, because I know you work with a lot of people on that.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. That's exactly what it is. When you revise a situation, you're not. Sometimes the truth is you're not necessarily changing history, like of what physically actually happened. You're just changing your feelings and your emotions about the situation, so you don't carry those to the next year or whatever the next relationship. And that's really what revision is to help you replay the new memory and to not think about the original sin. As Neville says, all evils caused from the unrevised scenes of the past is essentially Neville's quote, because you keep thinking about the negativity. So I would say, yes, if you stop thinking about the negativity of whatever happened in high school, because you can't physically go back and redo high school, because you've already graduated. There, unless you get like a fake identity. I mean, some crazy people in the world have done that. I've read a story about somebody who went back to high school under a fake name and did all this crazy stuff. Who eventually, I think, got arrested or whatever. But physically, you're not gonna go back to high school and redo high school. Now, college is more realistic. You can go back to college and finish college or redo a different program, or that's unlimited. You could be whatever your age is. You can be 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, whatever, and go back to college and go back to school. So that's something that could easily be revisited and you could take actual physical action on if you want to go back and have a pleasant college experience. It's never too late to do that.
Does that make sense,
Yes,
Les, of what we're saying?
yes, I understand perfectly. And yes, and when I said like what happened with high school, yes, I finished it, but I said that I didn't finish it the way I should have done it or I wanted it to be, something like that. Like when it comes, because that goes on hand with entering college, because to enter a college, a good university, those high school knowledge and everything is necessary to achieve so, because at least here where I live, the admission exams, like the exams to enter university, use all those knowledge that you learn in your last years of high school. So that goes in hand. Like if I'm able to finish high school the way I wanted it to be, I will be able to also enter young good university, and I will be able to get my graduation and fix that part of my life. That goes with on hand. That's what I'm trying to say. But as I said, like when it comes to, I know one thing is words and one thing is action. I know that, but I can say that I swear, like I swear to God, I swear in name of the people that I love, that if I had the chance to study that career that I am good at, like being able to study both English and interpreting and language translations, which is what I'm good at, I will give it all. I swear. I will give my 200% on it. I swear. Like But as I said, like I know, but I know there is no excuse to that. There are many options, many things, and nothing can prevent you from achieving. So you have the will to do so, like having a will to the end to do so. That's why that's what I'm trying to say. I know, I understand that, but I was just wondering if there was a way I could like fix that or get something that could help me with that. I don't want to sound like I want to go the easy path and everything, but that's what I want. I was wondering.
There's definitely a way. I mean, this is again, Neville talks about this beautifully. Um, there's a way to heal all of that. So revision the way, we're talking about it. It's like Lazo, like, take a moment right now, even like all that hurt you feel, like drop that. Again, we're in like a non-judgmental zone here, right? Just drop that and just feel that like what you want. Do you feel what you want?
Yes, yes. When I imagine myself like having that. I feel good. I feel complete. I feel
Good.
like I am I have solved a problem. Now I can move ahead as I should, and as I please.
So listen, that's revision. You have it already.
Oh, okay, I understand. So if there is a chance that if I maybe continue doing that, I know it's hard to like change the past and all that, but I could maybe get the opportunity to fix that, like right now, can that be possible? Like not going back to the past to reverse it and everything, but getting the
Right,
chance to fix
right
it
now.
here.
Exactly. You understand. Right now. Right now.
Yeah.
Like Marvin said, the sin is missing the mark and you keep on blaming yourself. If you
Yes.
stop, if the blame or condemnation stops and you know what you want and you're genuine in your desire and there's the purity of it and it's coming from your heart, you can feel that right now.
Yes, yes. When I imagine myself like graduating or being able to study the careers as I should and everything, I feel like, for example, I will enjoy like every day doing classes, studying, doing exams and everything. I will be feeling like with please even doing so.
Yeah. So this is the kind of stuff Neville's talking about that's so cool. It's all because Neville says everything is now. Thy will be done now, right? So this is how we change the past and heal ourselves. You know what you want. You can stop beating yourself up. It's over. And now this is it. And this energy is a very different emotional energy than blaming yourself or regretting. This is the energy to go forward. Joseph Murphy's got that great story in The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. And he has other stories like this of this kid who wanted to be a chemist, but he had no money, but he felt himself being a chemist. He felt what that would be like. And he felt his way to becoming a very, very successful professional. And there's countless law of attraction stories like that. That's what this is about. That's what's so powerful. I think for most of us, at least, we're not literally talking about changing what previously happened. We're talking about healing from it and in a way transcending it so we're okay now and okay going forward. Because, in God's eyes or the universe's eyes, there's never been anything wrong with you. And if you realize that, you're healed, right? You're fine. This is a mental, it's the past is the past. And it's only you're beating yourself up for something that is different now, that you want it to be different. And it's different. So just go with that if you want. That's revision.
I understand, and thanks so much for clarifying me that doubt. And now that I have the answer, I can go ahead and do the work. Thank you so much.
Great.
And I have another question that I have regarding this, like my desired SP. This is something like it's a matter of like control. Also, like kind of like when you like imagine yourself like a perfect SP and everything. This is like, for example, when I think about like my desired SP, many times I imagine like a person that will be on my side, that will be having the ability like to change me, to give me what I need to do to achieve my goals, someone that will compliment me, something like that. But obviously not seeing her as a way to my ends or something like that, like a tool or something. No, no, no. I don't want that to imply that, but somebody that go be on my side, for example, like being comfortable, safe around her or make me feel good, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah,
No, no, not like in a not in a explicit manner, but now in a lovely, pure manner, like probably like going to sleep in her arms and everything. It's something like I don't want my ESP to seem like to be like a tool for me or something like that, but like a companion. You mean right? Someone that could compliment me, help me, and everything on my side, but obviously like giving her space and everything, not just be everything about around me. You know what I mean, right? I don't want that. I just would like to imagine like somebody that could help me with something that I am lacking or I may need to. She could be like help me with that part. You know what I mean, right?
of course. Yeah, just be your loving self. Just be the good person you are, you know? I'm sure Marvin's got plenty to say, but this is what we always talk about. You can watch, we've done so many videos about this in a good way. It's like, just be the loving person that you are. And that's what, if you do that, it, it's easier to attract that then. And, just use common sense, in my opinion. And that means taking action, usually, um, taking some action, but just, yeah, don't worry about the SP stuff in terms of like any manifestation tricks. You don't have to. Just be a good person. What do you say, Marvin?
So what did he? I lost him a couple times. What was his question? Because I couldn't understand him at some points.
Just no, I mean, just like it was the latter question was just about, general SP advice, like, and just, I would just how like it's like when you're thinking about an SP, it's not about like using them as like a tool or getting something from them. It's just like about being with the person and like, support, like enjoying them and enjoying their company. And like, like if you're like, lying next to them in bed, um, or something like that, just like natural. I don't know. Laszlo, feel free to elaborate. But do you understand what we're saying? I mean, I think you do, right? You've seen our videos about SP stuff before, right?
Yes, yes. Like I know what I am planning regarding like what I decide regarding my SP is like, for example, someone with abilities to like, for example, to change me, to like change that was wrong in me, or maybe like giving me a desired mentality that I want for things and everything, like being able to wash away when I those moments when I feel angry, where I feel sad, where I feel like overwhelmed, on things like that. For example, having healing hands, having like angelic wings to embrace me and things like that. Like I know it sounds like fantastic, but that's what I imagine regarding an SP. That's what I feel in general.
Yeah, I mean,
Somebody,
does it feel good? I guess would be my short
yes,
question. It feels good when you
yes, yes, it feels like heavenly even.
good. That's perfect in my opinion. Did you hear that, Marvin?
Yeah, I did. I saw Sarah said she wanted to say something. I wanted to hear what she said or what she wanted to talk about in regards to, I
Yeah,
guess.
I just wanted to say that people talk about scripting, and I don't always employ scripting, although I think that it's good to write down what's important to you and what you want from a relationship, because, you know, at one point, I guess maybe like somewhere within a year before I met my ex-fiance several years ago, I had written down all the qualities that I wanted um, in a relationship or with a person, right? And he actually did bring in a lot of those qualities, the good qualities. But unfortunately, he also brought in some extra bad things. And
Right.
I didn't really think about that beforehand. And so I might have left some of those things out. Like I think I might have written like patient down or something, but I didn't write down um, you know, like open-minded and generous. And I think I left that out because he was like he was patient, but then he was also selfish. So basically, I think writing stuff down, like what you're saying about the person challenging you to be a better person, you know, definitely, you know, write it down and remind yourself that that's important to you. And like I've noticed that even the last person that was important to me that I would like to manifest back, but patience was something this guy was lacking, and it's an important quality. I mean, I can't really you give that up. Like that's what I need that in a relationship. So you know, the scripting part of writing things down is so helpful, I think, in that regard. But I also am wondering what Tim and Marvin think about the part where you're manifesting these good qualities, but then that person might surprise you with these other things. I mean, we can't predict who we're going to meet, you know. But I just was wondering what you thought about that.
Yeah,
So
and Laszlo, I saw that you did script too. That's great. And Laszlo, if you wanted to, you know, just because the connection's not great, if you want, you know, you can email Marvin and I, and we can set up a consultation about some of this SP stuff, a brief consultation, because I don't think you've spoken to us yet. So just, you know, feel free to do that. And then, yeah, Marvin, I'd love to hear your take on this too.
So when you say I can email you about the scripting stuff, what do you mean that I can do?
You
Sorry,
can,
sorry.
if yeah, we're, you know, if you want to have a short consultation with Marvin and
Yes.
I in regards to the SP stuff, one-on-one, we're still offering those for, you know, for people who are interested in SP coaching. So if you want, you can contact us about that, and we can do that. We can schedule that for a later time.
Yes, well, my opinion regarding that, your desired SP, like it may have those desired qualities you want, but it can also include things that may clash with things you, like what Sarah said, they may collision with some things of you. I feel like I know I can predict those other aspects, but I feel I
Exactly.
may be able to adapt for,
Right.
because I
So
feel like
we're just because we're short on time. I just want to get because I want Marvin to kind of expand upon that some. So we can talk about that more. But I wanted to make sure that we just get that Marvin gets to share this point here. Is that okay?
Okay, no problem. Well, team, I know how to contact Marvin because we speak each other on Instagram. But how can I contact you? Sorry, I don't know exactly. Don't know.
No problem. Info@radicalcounselor.com or just radicalcounselor.com.
All right.
And we
Okay,
can
so
go in more detail for sure.
all right. Can I give you my email on private here so you can give me send me something so I can contact you? I can send it by private here. Okay, give me a moment. I
Yeah,
will
no,
send it.
perfect. Okay. All right. So thank you, Laszlo. Yeah, Marvin, I think that's really an interesting point. I want to hear your take on it, and then I'll probably talk about some too.
which part of the point?
About because I've been, you know, I had a private client recently too talking about this. And I know we've dealt with it some too. It's like people scripting or, you know, thinking about qualities they want, and then bad stuff comes up as well that they didn't predict. Um, you know, caveat for all this stuff obviously being that scripting, like any other technique, is just a tool. It's not a blanket thing everybody should do, but it does work well for some people, you know, as you know, Sarah was just saying. But yeah, I'm just curious, Marvin, like, what do you think about that? You know, you write stuff out, but then other stuff happens. Like, you know, like the person is one thing good, and then this other stuff you didn't expect pops up.
So I think scripting is good for being specific. I think it's very good for that. I think that a lot of times when we visualize or say affirmations, a lot of times we're not specific. So I think that's where scripting can definitely help. However, I think what we're talking about right now, and you script something, but then the opposite shows up. I think part of that is wanting something so bad, in a sense, or you might feel so desperate to want something that you call in the good, but you don't necessarily address the bad that comes with it. And also ignoring, I think a lot of times too, in the beginning, I don't know, and this is me in the 3D. People say that certain people change after a period of time. A lot of times I kind of disagree with that. I think it's just so often in the beginning we ignore a lot of signs that we know are probably bad or whatever we want to call it. But because we're in that beginning stages of love or whatever you want to call it, that we overlook things that we probably wouldn't overlook. And so as time goes on, we'll start to say to ourselves, oh, I thought that they would have changed by now. It's been 6 months or it's been a year. And then they don't change. But a lot of times people do show those signs, I'm not saying that there aren't those people out there that maybe do a damn good job at hiding who they really are in the beginning. I'm not saying that that's not possible, but oftentimes I find a lot of times that I'm talking to people that, okay, there were certain situations and instances that you did choose to overlook because you were in a certain stage. And a lot of times people so for instance, I'll give you guys an example. I remember when I manifested an SP back, my old SP. I remember when I manifested her back. She came back into my experience, right? But she was the same old person that she had always been. She wasn't healed, right? So she came back, but she still had the same issues. She didn't fix herself. She didn't change. She still had dad issues. I mean, she still had all of that. So yes, it is possible to manifest somebody back, but they're not healed. And I think that was a huge blind spot back when I had, after the fact, when I got out of that situation, I look back and I realized like, oh shit, like I wanted her back to see what would happen, and I wanted to test it, like Neville said. But I think a big blind spot of mine was I wasn't specific in saying, "Oh, she needs to show back up healed," because she didn't show back up healed. She showed back up with the same problem, same issue, same everything, right? And so, getting specific with scripting can help with these situations, but oftentimes we are just so desperate, like I said, that we don't even care how they show back up. We don't even care how the SP comes back. We just want to be in contact with them. And I tell people all the time, it's actually a good thing that most of us don't have our SPs, because we would most likely 9 times out of 10 lose them again. People want to get an SP back very quickly. But to me, you don't want to get an SP back quickly, in my opinion, because you really haven't changed who you are at the core. And I think and honestly, Sarah, I'm going to be honest with you, Sarah, and I could be wrong, but I'm going to be honest with you. I think you have a lot of stuff throughout your history of life, just from hearing you talk, listening about your ex-fiance and whoever else was, you mentioned another guy that had patience, but he missed something else or something. I forget what you were saying, and then thinking about your sister, I think a lot of times people don't realize like all of this stuff it's combined energy in a sense, and you're manifesting all of these hardships for a reason. Maybe something from your past that you haven't necessarily dealt with, from as being a kid. Maybe your parents. I don't know what your parent dynamic situation like. Tim might know more than that because you guys have already spoken, but there's some sort of a pattern energetically that I'm getting the sense of from hearing you speak and in these situations. So I think that's also a very big reason and why people say, "Oh, I scripted, and this person had all of these qualities that I wanted, but they didn't have this, 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 this." Well, maybe they didn't have those qualities because you didn't really revise that properly. Maybe they have those qualities because you still are subconsciously looking for your father unknowingly, and that you still haven't addressed that bug yet. And so that to me is a big, huge reason why people will manifest a person and they will have A, B, and C and D for great qualities, but then they're missing out on these over here that are so pivotal to you.
You said everything I wanted to say. I knew you were gonna nail that. Yeah, man. Scripting's great, and the thing is, I was talking to someone about this the other day. This is like real Papa Bear Tim stuff. People are, again, not going to want to hear this. In my opinion, usually 6 months, the first 6 months of most relationships is the honeymoon phase. And
Exactly.
you will overlook the bad shit. A lot of us will, if you really like or love the other person. And, um, you know, we speak to a lot of people who've never even been in a 6 month relationship. Like we speak to people like who are like, oh, I don't know, this keeps on happening or da da da. And then like you ask, it's like, how long have you been in a relationship for like, oh, 3 months, or like, what's your longest relationship ever? 4.5 months. And you know, in that situation, I always say I have to give them the tough love, which is like, listen, you've never been in like, I don't want to say a serious relationship, but you've never gone past the honeymoon phase. Stuff starts getting interesting when you get past that 6 months, or you know, that's a general thing. For some people, it might be a year. Some people it might be 4 months, whatever. And I think for a lot of us, you have to decide after that honeymoon phase, however approximately 6 months or you know thereabouts long it is, you have to decide if this is actually something that is going to work long term, because you will be tested, because the stuff you did not write down that subconsciously was always there is
Facts.
going to start coming up, and you will be tested, and it's going to be like, wow, do I want to work through this? Is this the person I actually want to be with? Because everyone is you pushed out in this way, guys. Like that's like, it's like your stuff is going to start being projected from the other person if it's a serious relationship. And uh that's like, the SP community does not talk about this at all, basically. Okay. Like this is that's like, again, this is the real work, generally speaking. It's like, it's one thing to get in the relationship. The honeymoon phase is great. The honeymoon phase is great. I'm not detracting from the honeymoon phase at all. It's awesome. But that's like, you know, they launched a rocket, how it takes all this energy just to get up, right? That's like you got up. You love each other now, you know? Then shit starts to happen that you got to face, generally speaking. And no amount of scripting alone is going to fix that. You're going to have to look at the hard stuff.
Facts.
And that's there's a lot of situations like we were talking about earlier. There's a lot, like with the SP, who just is not, like for instance, the SP, like the first 6 months, you might be able to look past the SP's obvious fucking flaws for a long-term relationship. But then all of a sudden you get tired of the dude drinking or not being responsive or not being communicable. And it's going to be like, all right, am I going to be a fucking doormat, or am I going to get out of here? Like, you know,
Facts.
and like, and that's, again, that's not easy, but this is the kind of stuff people need to hear. Um, so yeah, that's just
Real,
something
real
worth
quick,
thinking
Tim.
about. Yeah.
I want to answer her question because she asks, is there a way to become more aware, subconsciously attracting things that we don't like? And I would say yes, Sarah. I would say look at your history. I would say 100%. The past leaves clues. The past always leaves clues. So look at your dating history. Look at your sister's history. Look at how you grew up. I mean, you got to basically look at your past and do a really big deep dive and revision, not necessarily revision to change the past, but revise your past and everything that has happened through everything in your life. And, you know, this is something Tim and I talked to somebody about in one of our group sessions. We had somebody where, you know, she didn't even realize she was trying so hard to not be like her mom that she was subconsciously making decisions and ended up being like her mom. You know what I mean? And so it's there's situations like this that you know, I want everybody to be aware of, because you don't realize that you are indirectly sometimes that smell can linger off of a parent or, you know, a past relationship. So yeah, I would say look at your past, look at all your relationships, look at if a reoccurring problem has happened in all your relationships, look at your relationship with your mom, look at your relationship with your dad, because those could be two different relationships. Look at your belief system. You know, did your mom or did your dad or your friends around you, are your friends around you pumping negative beliefs about men into your ear, and have you subconsciously picked up on those negative beliefs about men? You know, all of these things can play a role. So I would just say, yeah, do a deep dive and look at your history, because your history is telling you clues about everything that you need to fix for sure.
Yeah. And you know, a therapist can obviously help you do that. And obviously, uh, you know, Marvin and I can help people on this call, people watching this. I mean, you know, again, if you want SP advice, that's more gray, more in the weeds, and that's more nuanced, I don't know if we're the only game in town, but we're just about the only game in town. So, you know, we're still, you know, doing the SP program with people. And right now we're still doing the weekly coaching call for $250 a month, which is just absurd. Um, these group coaching calls that are private are very different than a public call because um, people aren't going to be on YouTube. And so it's very supportive and private. So uh, yeah, I mean, we can probably help you is what it comes down to. If you have SP issues and you haven't already spoken to us, you know, you can get in touch with Marvin and I, info@radicalcounselor.com. Most of you have Marvin's email. I'll put that below as well. And, you know, we'll give you a no pressure, you know, basically like a short consultation about, you know, what's going on in your relationships or, you know, your relationship history and whether we think we can help you or not. But yeah, this group program that we've been doing, this weekly group program, has exceeded our expectations in terms of how quickly we see people start shifting stuff when they're just encouraged a little bit. In other words, when they're told to take outward action as opposed to just doing the inner work, because obviously we're big believers in inner work as well. But a lot of people in the SP community just need a little gentle nudge or prompting to do things that uh, make sense. And if you do that, um, you know, very often you will see changes in your life relatively quickly. So yeah, that's something that we encourage people to do, whether you work with us or not, is to think about taking inspired outer action to go along with the inner work.
And we've helped a lot of people get rid of that fear. We've helped a lot of people move in spite of that fear to do things that we thought they would never. And even been shocked. Like Tim said, we pleasantly surprised that I was shocked at hearing certain people reached out and contacted whoever it might have been, and they got pleasant answers and everything went well. But like Tim said, just giving people that nudge sometimes on what to do in the 3D, because like I said, people struggle with actually taking action in the 3D because people study Neville so much, or it was something I realized too, Tim, is people don't even study Neville. Like I
That's
really
true.
didn't realize,
Yeah.
that like a lot of people are getting their information from YouTubers that have read Neville, and they're not actually reading the source, or they're
It's
not
so
actually
bad.
reading.
If
And
they
so
read
that was,
if they read Neville, they would never do this SP stuff. Oh my gosh, you know.
yeah, and that was something that I had to realize recently, because I had assumed and thought for the longest that, yeah, you've read Neville's teachings. Yeah, you've read, and I realized, oh shit, a lot of people have not actually read law of attraction books, not even just Neville, just law of attraction books, period. They're just getting their information from people like you and I or some other random YouTuber, and they don't even know if what they're listening to is actually accurate, or actually out of Neville's teachings. Because so many people say things are Neville's teachings, but they're not Neville's teachings. They are their own teachings. They are turning it into something that Neville never said. He never preached, and it's just wild to me. So that's something to keep in mind too. But I'm there, like Tim said, I'm pleasantly surprised that uh, the action that people have gotten rid of the fear so quickly to make the first move and to get results. And I'm excited about the future.
Yeah, yeah. So if you want help from us, by all means, you know, be in touch. We'd love to talk to you. But yeah, we hope this call has been helpful. And SP issues are very interesting because they underscore a lot of the issues we see in general in the manifestation community. Relationships are such a core part of being a human being. Um, and as Marvin just said, a lot of it is just working through our fear. Working through our fear is something that is it's one of the one of the biggest parts of life. If you want to improve your life, I think you have to start looking at your fear and you know, treating it perhaps differently. Um, and so yeah, it's just so important to remember that and to not let the dogmatism of this manifesting advice take away from the fact that like you want to feel better and you're worth it. your work. It's not about the concepts. It's about you, and that's something that Neville did say. It's about you. Um, and yeah, these wonderful ideas are can definitely help you, but you want to look at them in a mature way that's not sensationalized. And yeah, we hope this call has helped you do that. So until next time, be good, and we'll see you all soon. Bye, everybody.